Hey everyone, this is Rachelle. Thanks for clicking on my video. And y'all, I wanted to come in and talk about colorism. But I wanted to talk about it from a historical standpoint. Now, what made me want to talk about this is I've been seeing a lot of things in social media, out in the mainstream media, and also here on YouTube regarding this whole thing, this whole subject of colorism. And as I watched and read different stories, I started to really think back to the roots of why we are where we are as far as a people, with this thing of separating ourselves, using our different hues, meaning if you are quote unquote dark skinned or if you are quote unquote light skinned, and where all of this originated from. Now, when I was reading some of the comments in these discussions, I got to the point where I had to stop reading because it made me sad. It made me sad because when I think about there was a time when we didn't do that to each other. There was a time when we were proud of who we were as a people. There was a time when we were one. Even if we were different tribes over in the mother country, we were still considered Africans. Now, when we speak of Africa, in those comments, I noticed that a lot of people were saying, a lot of black people were saying, they do not consider themselves African Americans because they were born in America and they've never been to Africa. Neither have I. But I consider myself an African American. The reason why I do is because that is the continent that my ancestors came from. Those are the people that I originated from. I was not born, or my ancestors were not born slaves. They were Africans who were enslaved here in America. So for me, my history doesn't start here in America. It starts over in Africa. But what I understand is, over the hundreds of years that we've been in this country, we have been taught, and it has been drummed into us, that everything associated with Africa is bad. That the country itself, the continent, because Africa is not a country, it's a continent. The continent itself is a mystery. And anyone who hails from there is something different, something other. This is what has been drummed into us for hundreds of years. And we have eaten it up with the silver spoon. We have completely turned our backs on the continent where our ancestors came from. Now, when you think about how we got to be here, there were European settlers here in America, in the Americas, that sailed over to Africa, and they were stealing people. You know, a lot of argument is made that different tribes were selling prisoners of war to these Europeans that came over there to get people. And that is a fact of how some of us got here. You know, two tribes may have been fighting, they took prisoners, and they used those people as bartering tools. You know, hey, I'll give you these people if you give me this. So that is a fact of slavery. But the vast majority of us were stolen. Okay? When we were there in Africa, as I mentioned, there were many different African tribes. They warred against each other, which that happens all over the world. They took prisoners of war. That happens all over the world to this day. But the difference with our people is they labeled us savages. They labeled us subhuman, and we didn't have a proper language and all of this when they got to Africa. But that is not true. We had our own language. Africa, as we know, is the cradle of civilization. So we had been around long before there was an America. We had learned to live with each other over there. And we were a proud people. But then many of us were taken away. Many of our ancestors were stolen. And then there is the Middle Passage from Africa. The part where they've captured us. And they packed us in the belly of ships. I believe that that was the last time that we as a people were together. And I mean together in one mindset, that wherever they were taking us, we didn't want to go. We were probably in the belly of that ship trying to communicate with each other. How are we going to get out of here? Where are we going? Where are they taking us? Why are they treating us like that? We were single-minded in that. I don't believe there was one African person in the bottom of that ship or those ships that wanted to know where they were going, were excited about where they were going. They were terrified, and how we know that is there are stories of some of them not sure where they were going, but they knew they didn't want to go, and they were literally leaping off those ships to their death. We were singular in the thought that we did not want what was coming our way. Little did we know that we would get to a country where we would be treated worse than animals, worse than anything that had ever happened to us, and that this treatment would go on for hundreds of years, and it would separate us. It would make us enemies towards each other. It would make us forget the mother country that our ancestors came from. We got to the Americas, and we were sold off to plantations. And then that life of servitude, of slavery, began here in America. Now, when they got us there, we had been used to being our own people, our own governing body, in control of ourselves, our destinies. And a lot of us had will. So they needed to break us to make us bend to them. And they found so many ways to do that. They raped our women. They beat our men. They fed our babies to crocodiles, alligators, everything that they could think to do to us to break our will. And then there was one thing that they did once we were on those plantations. I mentioned that our women were raped. The African women were raped. When you mix white and black together, you get different hues of babies. Some are darker, some are lighter. What that did is it muddied the waters of what it meant to be African. It changed the structure of who we were. And it divided us as a people. Now, back during that time, because they were bringing thousands and thousands of us over there, over to the Americas, they needed a foolproof way as they brought different shiploads of slaves over, to keep us under control. So they pitted the old against the young. They pitted the dark against the light, female against male, and it went on and on and on. Because what they quickly realized is when they pitted us against each other, where one of us would go tell on the other because we thought we were better, that we almost did the work of governing for them, of controlling for them. If they had taught us to tell on each other, if they had separated us to the point that some of us thought we were better than the others, they would take the babies of those slave women that they had raped, and then they would put them in a big house. And they would tell them that they were better than the ones that worked out in the fields, that they were more special because they were master's babies. And to show that they were special, they let them work in the big house. Now, I'm not going to say that there weren't some darker ones working in the big house, but probably they were in the kitchen and, scrubbing and cleaning and washing and cooking and all of that. And maybe the lighter ones attended personally to the master and his family. But living in the big house gave them a few opportunities. They ate a little better, they dressed a little better, and they were closer in proximity to the master. So it separated them from those out in the field. And as generations and generations of us went through this separation, we as a people began to believe that what the master taught us, that the lighter ones of us were a little bit better, a little bit different, a little bit special. Never stopping to think that the lighter we are means the more our ancestor, that female ancestor of ours, was raped by the master. Now, on a plantation, amongst the enslaved people, the ones that lived in the big house that were the master's baby were not considered the better. The darker slaves, because they were working in the fields and doing the grunt work, they felt that, hey, yeah, you're lighter and you're in the big house, but what that means is you've been messed with. Hey, if I'm dark and I'm working in the fields, at least I am not becoming the master's bed wench, for lack of a better word. So there was a separation there where the ones in the house may have thought they were better because they were in closer proximity to the master and that they were the master's babies, not claimed by the master, but proof of it was when you looked at them. You knew that there had been some dipping into our pool that had started to create these different hues of us. Now this went on for, as I said, hundreds of years. So as it kept repeating itself, this mindset was ingrained into us, where the lighter you are, the better you are. And it brings us to today, where we're still having these conversations about this. We all know what this is rooted in, but it's like we choose to forget that, what is that old saying? The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. What it means is, and this is what my great-grandmother used to tell me, and she was 2 generations removed from the last slave in our family. She told me that, I don't know why black people think that the lighter that you are makes you better. It just means that your ancestor was messed with quite a bit. It kept diluting that African and us diluting that pureness that came from Africa. But again, Black Americans don't want to be affiliated with, think about Africa. They don't even want to identify as descendants of Africans because it's been ingrained in us that Africa is bad. We want no parts of it. We never want to visit it. We don't want it in the same sentence with us. Why? Why? Why are we as a race of people ashamed of where we came from? No other race of people on this earth are as much as we are. There have been other slaves in history, but we as a people, we ate up everything the master put in our head, and we're still doing it to this day. This debate that we're having about color within our own race is so ignorant to me. What it shows me is that the plan that the master had for us to separate us, oh my goodness, did it work. He didn't realize how long it would work, how hundreds and hundreds of years later that we're still doing it to each other. We're still separating ourselves by something that they put on us. You know, like I said, once upon a time, we were a proud people. We hailed from the cradle of civilization, and we have forgotten all of that. We want no part of it now. So when you think about this, don't think about, hey, this light-skinned girl thinks she's better than me. You think about the origins of it, how we came to this point. Who are you mad at? Why don't we as a people stop and remember how we got to where we are today? It is not a good thing. When I think about it, it hurts me for our female ancestors and what they had to go through. It hurts me that they were raped and brutalized against their will, forced to give birth to babies that they probably didn't even want, only to have them babies taken from them and sent to the big house to work for the massa. In the house with the man who raped them and took their baby from them. And we're proud of these situations, these things that it caused within us. We're proud that we now separate ourselves by the color of our skin within our own race. Do you guys see how insane that is? We bought it lock, stock, and barrel. And we continue to buy it. We continue to feed into it. We continue to tear each other apart with it. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I'm a chocolate girl and damn proud of who I am. I've never felt I had to stand back for anything. I embrace the African in me. When I look in the mirror, I often wonder, what did that slave look like? What was their life like in Africa? Where did they come from? Who was their tribe? How do I look like I look? It never crosses my mind to wonder about the massa who took my slave ancestor. I think about the person, that slave, that African. I am not proud of what they did to our women. Now, we have no choice. We had no choice in it. And that's why we have all these different hues. Don't let that fact escape you, that we are different shades, because our gene pool was mixed with the white man's. And other groups of people who were of lighter skin than us, it diluted the African in us. Y'all, this is the end of the video, but I just want to leave you with this. The next time you say red bone, light-skinned, dark-skinned, or you say something to the effect, or, oh, she's cute to be a dark-skinned girl, think about what you're saying. Think about what you are saying. And then think about that ancestor, the very first one. They got off of that ship and was put on that plantation. Think about what all they endured for us to be here, to have made it. Think about it. And then tell me again why we're separating each other, and putting each other down simply for the color of our skin within our own race of people. And with that, y'all, this is the end of my video. Thank you for listening. I would like to see some of your comments down in the comment section, and I will catch you in the next video. Stay safe and have a great day.